break so it can happen here.
Okay, we will return to, sorry.
Break it.
Sorry. We'll return to, open session at, 5:38. The board did meet in closed session, and we did take action on 2 items, so I'll read the supporting out statements for those 2 items. In closed session tonight, the board denied a claim for Edie Laney Gomez. The roll call vote was as follows. Trustee Pickle, aye. Trustee Ham, not present. Trustee Lopez, aye. Trustee Jayasinga, aye. And Trustee Valadez, not present. Second action that was taken in closed session tonight, the board authorized the superintendent to negotiate the purchase of property in Ferrari Ranch area near Green Sands and Gura Road, near the southwest corner, for the purpose of a possible school site. The roll call vote was as follows. Trustee Pickle, aye. Trustee Ham, not present. Trustee Lopez, aye. Trustee Jayasinga, aye. Trustee Valadez, aye. I invite everyone to stand for reflection. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
A second. Okay. We'll call for the vote then, please. Roebuck, I'm an aye.
Bear with me one moment, I need to.
Okay, motion carries 4-0. All right, next we have the introduction of new staff members. Mrs. Bellinger.
Good evening, President Pickle and Board of Trustees. I'm excited tonight to introduce to you our new teachers and administrators for this school year. We do have 41 teachers that we have hired and gotten cleared. We'll have a few more before school starts. We are very excited for all of them, but I did want to point out that 28 of those 41 are Merced Union High School District graduates. So it's great to see that our graduates want to come back and teach with us. But like I said, we're very excited for all of them. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce them by school to you tonight. Got it. So Atwater High School is first. And we're going alphabetically, so that's why it's by school.
Sure.
And from Atwater High School, all 4 of our new teachers are Merced Union High School District graduates. So, yes. We have Miranda Alviar, who she'll be teaching science, and she's a Livingston High School graduate. Walter Fernandez is a CTE construction trades teacher, and he's an Atwater High School graduate. Daniel Motz is a social studies teacher, and he's an Atwater High School graduate. And Jovian Soto is going to be a math teacher, and he is an Atwater High School graduate. So welcome to our district.
Yay. Have a good night, guys.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Have a great year.
Congratulations.
Oh, wow.
All right. So next we have Cpi Colony High School. Oh, look at that.
This is round 1.
Thank you. We have Samantha Bliss. She'll be an agriculture teacher, and she's from Livingston High School. Lisa Briccarello is a CPE Culinary Arts teacher. Serena Castillo is a special education teacher, and she graduated from Merced High School. Nina Ferretti will be an agriculture teacher with us. Natalia Galvan is a math teacher, and she graduated from Livingston High School. Stephanie Garcia will be a social science teacher, and she graduated from Buhat Colony High School. And then Christopher Engel will be an English teacher, and he graduated from Merced High School. Thank you guys very much for coming tonight, and welcome to the district.
Watch your step.
All right, thank you.
Have a great year, guys.
Next up, we have El Capitan High School. Woo! And from El Capitan High School, we have Anthony Joe Arista. He is going to be an associate principal in charge of student support, and he is a Merced High School graduate. We have Rachel Day. She's an agriculture teacher. Eli Grant is an agriculture teacher. Esteban Martinez is a social science teacher. And then Miranda Verdine Cose, and she's an English teacher and graduated from Buhat Colony High School. So thank you guys for coming.
All right,
and welcome.
Stage left, yep.
Next is Golden Valley High School. And from Golden Valley High School, we have Kevin McGill, an agriculture teacher. Jason Nimus, an English teacher, and he graduated from Merced High School. Emily Saturn, an English teacher, and she graduated from Atwater High School. And then David Swigart will be teaching music for us. So thank you guys for coming tonight, and welcome to the district. Next up is Livingston High School. And with us tonight, you can face that way. With us tonight from Livingston High School, we have Noah Rance. He'll be teaching agriculture, and Casey Gutierrez, and she's the TSA Activities Director.
So were they not available, the other ones, or?
Yeah, people that, if I'm not calling them out, then they weren't able to be able to come tonight. Okay, and then next up we have Merced High School. And from Merced High School tonight, we have Elizabeth Bertain. She'll be teaching science for us, and she's a graduate of Golden Valley High School. Kobe Griggs will be an avid teacher with us. Phaedra Hoffman will be an associate principal in charge of student support, and she's a Golden Valley High School graduate. And Erica Martinez, who is an agriculture teacher, and she's a Merced High School graduate. So thank you guys for coming. And last, but definitely not least, is Yosemite High School. And we have Dinya Amador, who will be an associate principal at Yosemite High School this year. All right, that's all for tonight. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Ballinger. That's a great group. Okay, next we have Showcase 2022 Summer School.
Mr. Richard?
Hello, everyone.
Hello?
Taking Mr. Nicholson's spot tonight. So I was the principal, I'm gonna say in name at UHAC. It was a team effort, all the other APs, I was an AP at UHAC, we decided we wanted to do it together, just so one person wouldn't do all of it, for obvious reasons, which I'm gonna state up here. I'm not gonna read all the numbers to you, you can see, we didn't have a lot of kids, but we got a lot of classes, accomplished in the 4 weeks, 20 days. some of the things we really learned, it's a lot of work doing summer school. It's a lot of work, especially when you're trying to finish up the year and you're trying to get summer school ready and, you know, kids still don't have all their grades done and you're scrambling a little bit. So, and you have to work with different departments versus if we're just an AP and I have my responsibilities and I'm not in guidance, I gotta work with counselors, I gotta work with everybody to get summer school up and running. So it's a good learning experience about to build summer school, you know, building a school on a smaller scale. I didn't bring my over 50 glasses, so. You gotta network with different people on campus, like I said, work with different departments. The learning curve for sure, especially some of the other APs at UHAC. Some of them have done it, some of them have not. So it's a good learning curve, and it was an opportunity for us to work together as a team and put summer school on.
Sure.
Mark, yeah. Will they work?
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't take any pictures.
No, they do not work. These work, I know. Okay.
Get that shot, Vivian.
Yeah. So some improvements, we all used Admentum. That was, teachers have a choice of using their own curriculum. If they want to do it, we're using Admentum. Admentum was a learning experience for the entire district for the whole year. Summer school was no different in that fact. I do want to point out Erica Carty was great. She worked under Costa all year long and summer school. Quick responses, helped us out whenever we needed. She was just great. Communications was important. We sent out daily updates. Every day there was an update about what's changed, what's new. Sent it to the entire staff, so everybody was up to date on what's going on. It really, really helped because we had staff from all over. It wasn't just UHAC staff. There's some Merced staff. So that was one of the strengths also, is that getting to know different people from different campuses. So that was UHAC. Atwater High, Mr. Nunes, who's wearing Carolina blue now, was the principal at Atwater High School. You can see some of the things they focused on at school there. Livingston was Miss Rose, Mrs. Rose, right? Correct. Some of the information from Livingston. And Merced was Mrs. Gossman, was a combination of all three Merced schools, Golden Valley, Merced, and El Capitan. We had a great time. It was, I would not have wanted to be principal there with 3 sites, but she did a great job, and her staff. And,
CBOC was.
CBOC, okay, Mr. Nicholson, who is not here tonight. I think there's a quick video we're going to play at the bottom. So overall, very successful summer school. Students had the opportunity to make up credits. which is a very good opportunity for them. Any questions I might be able to answer?
On one of the slides, you referenced Edmentum. Were all of the courses on Edmentum, or were some of them direct teaching?
Teachers had the choice to use Edmentum or just teach their own curriculum. But there were, even PE was offered on Edmentum. Most courses were available on Edmentum.
The students are required to be present,
Yes.
even if they were
Yes.
working
Yes.
online.
Something I may add, and Ms. Gossman, who's here, might attest to this, but from my perspective, especially doing summer school over the last, or during summer school, my first 4 and 5 years as an administrator here, the learning that Tiffany had an opportunity to have, Matt Bogard, who is also the summer school principal, along with others, not only were they the principals, but they were pushed and stretched and had different responsibilities that they traditionally do on their school year. So, like, for example, building a master schedule, dealing directly with just different issues on campus, like facilities, perhaps, things that they don't normally and typically do. So this really stretches them, and it prepares them for any next move that they'd want to make.
How was it decided that all courses would be online as opposed to direct teaching?
It was strictly, when we posted the positions, it was strictly up to the teachers. So if teachers wanted the option of using Edmentum, we had Erica Carty, who Mike mentioned. She would take the Edmentum curriculum and package it in the 20 days for the first semester, second semester. If teachers applied and they said, no, I'm a math teacher, I want to teach my own, they had the option to do that. So that's the way we posted the positions, and the teachers were given that option. Same thing with the instructional piece.
We had a couple that, we had English teachers that picked to teach, did half and half. So they did, in the morning, they were with one teacher doing physical half the day, or they would go with one, and then they would switch classes. So they would do an hour of Edmentum, and then they would do an hour of physical each day. So they had an option to do that. That was just the teachers worked out between the two of them and came up with that. So they were allowed to do that and choose for them. The one nice thing about having Edmentum is, for instance, Spanish doesn't have a lot of kids in each particular section. So you're allowed, it helps when you can put, 2-3 levels of class. So math and Spanish typically would be very small classes and might not be able to be offered. With the way Edmentum is, you can have each kid in their specific class and one teacher, and if they're teaching live, you wouldn't have that option. So some of those courses might not be available if they were teaching direct instruction versus doing it on Edmentum, because of the numbers. So that if you had all math 2s, for instance, you might only have 5 kids that need math 2, but doing it on Edmentum, you could have the 5 math 2, some math 1, some math Bs, all in one class. We tried to keep A's and B's together and then the uppers together, but without doing it on Edmentum and direct instruction, that wasn't possible. So there's some of that is nice, because you can combine some of those kids and give opportunities to kids that otherwise, with needing a whole class to do direct instruction.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Director. You're welcome.
Next, we have a general public comment period. Are there any cards? Nope. Okay. And we'll move on to reports and discussions. Safety update, Mrs. Thompson.
Good evening. Just a quick update on where we are with safety in the district. As I mentioned in the June board meeting, we are going to be working on our safety plans. I think that's going to the board in October. And that's a list of all the procedures that we have in place for a variety of events. In addition to that, we are creating a safety protocol presentation. So we'll be giving that out to all principals with all of our safety protocols in a presentation format so that they can present those to their staff. We we'll schedule our safety drills, our lockdown, fire, earthquake, and then we'll also do our surprise lockdown, so the sites won't know we're coming, and we'll call a lockdown that they don't know about. We had our first active shooter training today, and we have active shooter training tomorrow for new teachers. We have gang education training scheduled at every single site in the district, and all sites will be completed by the 1st of September. Admin and liaisons, as usual, will continue to supervise before school, at breaks, lunch, and after school. We're continuing with our Cpi training, which is our Crisis Prevention Institute training. We teach we teach de-escalation techniques to staff, and then we also teach physical interventions that might need to be used. And then we're expecting that our student support APs will review those with our liaisons on a monthly basis. We have these flip charts that are in every classroom in the district. They're pretty old, and so this summer I've been working on updating these flip charts, and we'll be getting those finalized here in the next couple of weeks. I already mentioned the school-wide presentation on safety protocols, but we're also asking the APs when they go in and they do their agenda chats to also have these conversations with the students. We did a lock assessment at the end of May. We asked all of the sites to let us know if there were any doors that the push buttons didn't work or that they were unable to be locked. So we received all that information, and maintenance and operations has been working on correcting all of those issues. I'm working on getting camera training. There are some features with our camera system that we weren't aware of. For instance, if we have students that we are trying to find in multiple frames, there is a technique that you can use where it will find it for you once you get the first still shot, so that would be very helpful. So I'm working with our camera company to try and get that. We recently purchased Navigate 360, and that company is going to provide us Alice training videos, so lockdown training. We'll have access to that set of videos. And then in addition, they currently are reviewing these flip charts to give us any feedback on those.
Why are the flip charts important?
They're in every classroom so people know what to do in case of emergency. If you're not thinking straight or you're panicking, they're right there for everybody to have access to. And then they have the phone numbers on them too. Monday, I worked with all the student support APs for an updated agenda chat where they'll go over not just the school rules, but they'll give specific examples. One of the things we talked about was what confrontive behavior looks like, so they'll be giving explicit instruction on things like that. Our MOUs are going to be updated. They'll be coming to the board, I believe, next month. So basically what they're going to say is any of our school resource officers, if they're going to be out for training or if they're ill, the department is going to do their very best to provide a substitute for us, so we won't be short with an SRO on campus. We purchased the CCAD scanning software that I presented, or that Mrs. Gossman presented to the board back in June, and our admin had training on that on Monday. We've added half of a liaison at each campus. And then, I didn't see that last one. And then I asked LCAP to come because one of the expectations that we have is that our student support APs will be meeting with students and staff and have committees to get feedback about discipline, about safety, and about wellness on campus. And so I think with COVID, those things kind of just went went by the wayside. And so we're going to reinstitute those. And I asked for Mr. News, Mr. Arisa, and Mrs. Coates to come and talk about what they plan on doing with LCAP.
Good evening. As the new principal of El Capitan, I wasn't really sure what it would look like when we had 80% of our admin at El Cap, moved around. And so I've been extremely blessed with the team that we have. And when I spoke with our new associate principals of student support, Mr. News and Mr. Arisa, about discipline and what the types of things we need to do, especially from some of the things that had happened in the spring, they were gung-ho and ready to jump on board. And so I'm super excited for them to present some of the things that we're going to be doing this upcoming year with you guys. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Arisa and Mr. News.
Hello, everyone. Again, I just want to say one more time, thank you for giving me the opportunity to work in the district. It was an awesome staff at El Capitan High School. One of the first tasks that Megan put me in charge of was getting our DASH committee together, and our DASH committee is our discipline, attendance, safety, and health. We're going to be meeting once a month. We are going to have an assistant principal, which is named a counselor, the nurse, the health assistant, if possible, the attendance clerk, the SRO, student services, secretary, the liaison, and we're going to have the teacher representatives and also student representatives and parent representatives as needed. Also, one of our meetings quarterly is going to be just focusing on wellness and our safety committee, make sure we're updating that safety plan consistently throughout the whole entire year. Some of the things that we're looking at our DASH committee is basically looking at student information, looking at concerns that we might have on campus. How can we better our procedures? How can we better help our students and teachers be safe on campus and also be able to teach and our students be able to learn? We're going to be focusing on that monthly with our team. Some of the other things that we're focusing on is our revamping or reorganizing our discipline procedures and making sure that our students know what their expectations are and making sure our teachers know what their expectations are. I believe if they know what our procedures and our programs are, that's going to build some trust in our system, and we're going to be able to service our kids and service our teachers better within the office time. We also are going to not only focus on our discipline, but also on some student incentives, making sure we're using that NSECA program. And we have our GACHO program. We're looking at that 90% attendance. We're looking at 2.5 GPA or higher or being on graduation track. No D's or F's in any of our classes, no suspensions, and get connected. And when I say get connected, I mean being part of a club, being part of a team, or even having some community service. And Mr. Noon will talk a little bit about some of the Saturday things we're planning to get our kids involved, and even our Southside kids across town, making sure that they're being part of El Capitan High School. So, and all together, focusing on that community service. I know Ms. Cope is really pushing that to making sure we make that connection with those parents, making sure that they feel welcome at El Capitan High School, and we're going to make some opportunities for them to be part of El Capitan High School. So I'm going to pass on to Mr. Noon.
Yeah, I think you hit everything, my man.
And he's going to talk a little bit more about it.
The message was really clear. The first day we met with Ms. Cope, it's every student every day, and there's no exceptions. You're out of your office and you're in classrooms, because that's the big thing. If you take care of the classroom instruction piece, a lot of those problems kind of take care of themselves. So the stuff that does happen in the classrooms, like Mr. Arisa said, we made a very guided flow chart with exact procedures that every staff member is going to follow. The kids are going to know what's going to happen. There's no secrets. And going back to what Ms. Johnson had said, the explicit instruction and agenda chats is we're going to take a whole period, that 47, 45 minutes, and walk through every item and explicitly teach those things. Because a lot of times we'll do an agenda chat, you're trying to get them all done, you've got 3 or 4 days to do it, that we're going to take our time, we're going to model stuff, kids have questions, we always get the fight, well, what happens if I get in a fight? And kids are always asking questions, so just having that conversation with kids and talking to them and walking through the process, because a lot of kids, when they do get in trouble, back from when I did student support many years ago at Atwater, the kids are like, oh, I didn't know, and I never got that. And again, sometimes you take it with a grain of salt, but being very detailed in what we're teaching in those agenda chats. And the other thing, going back to the classroom instruction, if a kid is having issues, we want teachers to mediate. We want teachers talking to kids about what they're going through, because that's how you get trauma informed. They're going to use their nurture heart approach, and that's the best way to get to know kids is you have a conversation with them. I think one of the frustrating things is doing student support. You look at a student's file, and they've had some issues in class, and there's no documentation. And so you don't know what a teacher has done. So, like, we're going to really hit hard in our first couple of days back with staff is what's the mediation look like? What's that documentation look like? What's it really mean to help our students? And the other thing we want kids involved in the discipline talk. When we're having issues at schools, we want kids talking about what that looks like and why we're having issues. Because you'll be amazed, I have, kids contact me, email me what's going on. So that's the best way you build that relationship. And the kids are going to tell you where the issues are. If you build that relationship, hopefully you get that ahead of time. So we've already connected with Andre Griggs. He basically is the CEO of Restorative Justice League. We're going to start an after-school program through Assets, doing the Nurture Hearts approach with Mrs. Muliso, our IT teacher. And basically, we're also going to start a club. We had it at Atwater years ago, but we're going to do like the Power of Us. And basically, that's the only way you solve problems. It's not going to be one administrator. It's not going to be one club. It's everybody together, looking at data and really making meaningful interventions with kids and parents. And the last thing, me and Megan and Mr. Arisa, we looked over basically every kid that had an issue last year at LCAP. We went through every kid's file. We've already had a couple parent meetings. And those are all booked for their first week of school. We're going to meet every student, every parent, and just kind of lay the groundwork for what it looks like for success for them for the next 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. So that's what it looks like.
And I can tell you they're not just saying it, they actually are doing it, because I've had some students that I've worked with since last spring that I've had concerns about, and I've been working with their parents, and I've called over to LCAP, and they've already held the meetings, and they've already met with them, and I've gotten great feedback, so that's awesome. questions for anyone?
Have any of those, meetings started yet with the incoming freshman class? I mean, because obviously that's gonna be a conversation with Merced City as to the population that that'll be coming up and
Right.
some of the issues they may be having that we can address early on.
Yeah, we met with a couple of students that were moving, that were connected in some way to the students from last year. And so we've already had a couple of those meetings. Also today, during our roundup, I was able to connect a lot of my students that I had last year and students I've known from other schools, and just kind of talking with their parents, introducing myself, making sure they know if there's any issues that come to me. So we're already starting to lay that groundwork for those students, and then we also are going to have a hot list when we come back, and we're going to start meeting with some kids that may have a little, that have promise, and we're going to make sure that they understand our procedures and our expectations for them, and making sure we lay that roadwork, that groundwork, so they can be successful at LCAP. Because we're going to make LCAP the premier school in Merced. In 2 years, you guys will be wondering, wow, we want to be at LCAP.
Mr. Arista, can you quickly, give them a brief explanation of your previous
Yeah.
position?
I was just gonna
Oh,
have that
yeah,
question.
I used to be, well, I was the principal at LCAP is done. Well, I was.
Not yet, not yet.
I used to say, I was the principal at LCAP Elementary School, no, but it was very difficult today, saying LCAP all the time. No, I was the principal at Sinai Middle School for 8 years at Merced City School District. Previously that, I was the principal at Della High School. So, but knowing the schools, the kids on the south side, I know all the parents, I know, some of the issues and some of the triggers that may happen, and hopefully work with Mr. Nunes, and he knows a lot of the kids too. We're gonna make sure that we make that connection with the south side kids, because that's one of the things, looking at data and looking at what was happening, that was a big hole. That was a big hole for me. And one of my tasks, I think I turned into Megan when she asked me for my goals for the year, was to make sure that I keep that connection with the South Side students, and making sure we figure out ways to get them involved and get their parents involved, because that's the way they're going to be successful. They have to see it different ways, and we're going to make sure that we're going to mentor, and we're going to, like we say, we're going to mentor them and inspire them to support and do the right interventions and do the right type of quality instruction so they can be successful.
Thank you.
It's nice, my old stomping ground.
Yeah,
Started.
everybody's an Uber.
And then Uber.
On the, I think it's the 5th bullet point, staff, safety, wellness committee, so that's just for staff?
And that's going to be for everyone. So it's going to be embedded within our DASH committee. We're going to meet monthly for our DASH committee. We're going to cover everything: our discipline, our attendance, our safety, and our health. But the safety and wellness is going to be once per quarter. We're just going to focus on that. We're going to focus on our safety plans. We're going to focus on student wellness, not only health, but also social emotional, making sure we have the right support and help for them as they need it. And we're going to focus on those things, because there's a lot of kids that are still coming and still reeling out of this from COVID. And we just want to make sure that we're getting that help to them, and making connections with the counselors, making connections with their parents, and making connections with our new admin team. We're going to be out around.
Good.
So that would be then staff and students.
Right.
Right.
And we're gonna have some students come in when it's appropriate, to have that conversation, just get that feedback from the kids and even from parents. We're gonna be asking, well, what's going on? What can we do better? And that's what we're gonna do throughout the year to make sure that El Capitan, again, is the premier school in the high school district in 2 years.
How can we involve, maybe students in actually reporting stuff they're seeing on social media that could be potentially?
I think the single best way to do that is relationship with kids.
Yeah.
Again, at Atwater, and again, some kids, I just end up with my cell, like coaches give a number, I would give kids my cell number, and then if they couldn't email you, then if you're gonna text me. The tip line works well, but if you have staff with great relationships, the kids are gonna tell you what's going on. They're gonna tell you, and then you have a time, you be proactive in your approach and getting those kids out of class, meeting with them, mediating. But I think that, being proactive, the tip line is good, but kids are really like, oh, that number, I don't know if it's anonymous. And
Yeah.
having that relationship with kids, or kids that come to your office, like, hey, man, I think someone's gonna go down tomorrow in the bathroom, or after school, there's gonna be a fight by Burger King, and so that's the best thing to do. Everything's based, what we do is on relationships, and that should be it's always at the forefront of what we do. You just have to make time and an effort to make it.
You'd be surprised what kids tell you when you have that relationship. Sometimes you don't want to know. But they tell you some things, and it's good that once you have that relationship with kids, that trust comes, and they trust in you, and they trust that you're going to do what's best for them, and you want what's best for them. And that's what we want for the kids at LCAP.
Yeah, I just think it'd be hard to build relationships with so many students.
Well, you know, there's so many, and a lot of them are great kids. Most of them are gonna be great kids, and some of them are gonna need that extra, hi, how you doing today? And there's a little bit of smaller ones that are gonna, hey, let's talk a little bit, and there's gonna be a little smaller ones like, hey, let's come talk a little bit. You know, so there's always, the numbers get shrink smaller and smaller for the kids that actually need that part. And we're gonna make relationships with everyone, but there's some kids, of course, that we're gonna just know that, hey, I gotta check in with Johnny every day, and that's what that kids are come in and say, hey, Johnny, yeah, you got a problem, and make sure we check in with them, and make sure that, we just make that connection with them. And I think once they start building that trust, you know, that's when they start seeing what their future's gonna be like, and make that split. Okay, and that's what they have to make. They have to make that decision at one point. You know, where am I gonna go? You know, and I think as always, you have to have those choices at the end of the year.
That's all part of the MTSS work, which
Yeah.
you guys are doing, so it's great.
The other thing you can do is like finding those kids, like we're in Roundup today, so the kids skipping the attendance or the activity line, the club line.
Yeah.
Hold on a second here, you skipped everything, you got your schedule, and you're dipping, so you need to be involved in something. So really, after Roundup's over, go back and look at data and look, hey, there's 435 freshmen, 98 didn't sign up for anything. Okay, pull that kid out of class, there's all these clubs, all these activities, you have to get connected somehow. If you're not connected, the data shows you're gonna have a hard time being successful. So just finding, that's what we've been doing actually this week. New teachers, I've been grabbing, hey, I need you to do a club. You're gonna do, the culture club, you're gonna do the frisbee club. Yeah, we're just trying to, you know, you guys are teachers, so you want to leverage that.
Whenever we can connect with kids, it might be the frisbee club.
Only I can throw a frisbee in the yard.
We all understood. Those online.
But we're gonna do everything we can to make those connections, and not only make those connections, but identify with those kids. But sometimes they come in situations where, well, they're not like me, you know, they're not like me, you know, they don't know where I'm from. You know, but, you know, I grew up over on 15th, and I'm not over on 2nd, so those kids are kind of my specialty. We're gonna be targeting those kids, and we're gonna be targeting those parents. And you have a lot of great parents over there, a lot of great parents, but sometimes they just don't know how to connect to the school. And we're gonna make sure that parent contact and that parent information is out to the connect.
Well, it sounds like LCAP's got a good team.
We got an awesome staff.
We're forever gauchos.
Out, noon, out.
We're not gonna video that.
Mrs. Gold is a great leader, and she put us on the right path.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys very much for that.
Thank you, Mrs. Johnson. And Team Gaucho. All right, next we have a facilities update, Mr. Calderon.
We do, Mrs. Pickle, we do.
Please be as entertaining as
You're wearing the shirt, so you gotta,
Oh, another one. Oh, the LCAP.
Honor of these guys,
You know?
right here. I'm gonna tell you a sob story. I came here in May or June, and I gave you a facilities update. I was so excited about all this stuff that was going to happen, and then stuff happened. There's enough delays in construction as it is when things are perfect. But I'll tell you what, we got a lot accomplished. I'm gonna give you a quick update on those kinds of things. But I do wanna say, I wanna publicly commend Melissa Miller, Mark Gotchel, Jason Perez, and Mauro Souza, because without their patience, perseverance, whatever you wanna call it, stick-to-itiveness, a lot of this stuff wouldn't be where it is now and nearing completion. So they do a great job of teaming up and working through constant problems, because like I said, there's a lot of stuff that happens in construction that's unforeseen circumstances, and then we still have COVID issues, and of course, supply chain. So here's where we are. We need a tutorial. Gaucho, AP, you guys know how to use this? Down? All right, there we go. All right, there's 2 more portables being added at Atwater High School. The portables are there. I don't know if they've poured the pad yet, but we are looking at a September 30th date of completion. That's
behind the new gym, close to the basketball courts.
Right. And that space was picked out because there's additional opportunities to create, or to place more portables there, right?
Correct.
All right, Golden Valley, they were getting ready to pour the foundation, so they're a little bit further along than this. And they also are going to put 4 portables there, and they're going to do it by September 30th. Okay, that's EVHS. Softball, this one is on track for a November 30th completion date. They finished all the demo, and they're going to start building dugouts that are Title IX compliant. They're just the same size as the boys' dugouts. It's going to be a spectacular field. And if you drive by El Capitan, you will see, I've heard people say, gosh, I didn't know it was gonna look like that. Well, it's not gonna look like that much longer. Hopefully by the end of the week, they're gonna take this sandblaster with a water gun, and all that red will be gone, and it'll be a beautiful gray before they start reapplying the brick veneer. So in the next few weeks, they're supposed to finish the demo by August 6th. These guys have been tremendous they're starting to open up school. But they did a tremendous job of holding it all in the gym. They'll be done on the inside of the courtyard, demoing everything. They'll finish up the demo on the outside. Like I said, today they were up there using the sandblaster and the water gun to remove all that red garden. And then over the next couple of months, they'll start with the brick veneer, right?
Right.
And you guys can jump in and stop me anytime. I'm not.
So how much inconvenience is there going to be with?
Well, there are paths of travel. They're working with Megan and whoever else is in charge of facilities there, and Melissa, to work around things. We would expect that there's going to be, the biggest inconvenience is going to be that some paths of travel are closed to kids. And they'll change, from week to week. Once the break once the administration building is done, they'll start to open up the paths of travel throughout the year. And this is targeted for a May 6th, 2023 completion. Okay? The Livingston Concession restroom facility, again, in construction, there are unforeseen circumstances. There was some trouble with the framing of the structures. That's been resolved, so they're going to be back on track. But they did take advantage and pull down the existing chain link fence to put up a new ornamental fence, and that is still on target for a December 31st completion date. Merced High School Stadium, it is completed. There are minimal punch list items that Melissa's taking care of. We have scheduled the ribbon cutting, the grand opening, on August 12th at 9:30. You've received your invitation. If you can make it, please make every effort to be there. East Campus, I know there were a couple of questions about what's taking so long. Well, sometimes when you go with lowest bid, it doesn't,
Doesn't pay.
It doesn't, but that's the law, and that's what we have to follow. Mark, I thought he'd have a lot less hair than he does now, because he's been on those guys, and they're getting close to finishing. The same crew is working at East Campus Education Center, and they're close there, right? Right, East and Atwater. And Atwater still has some trim issues and locker issues, but it's not going to prevent the opening of school. And then the Golden Valley is a different crew, and I believe they are just about complete. Mark? I'm sorry? Golden Valley is just about complete?
It is. Actually, there's a couple items that were listed, change orders, additional painting that was added to the project.
Atwater store. Yeah. So, and then I don't have pictures. Atwater hasn't changed all that much. It's still gonna be the white and the blue. It's not faded blue. All right. Those are those projects. Additionally, we've completed roofing projects throughout the district. Campuses now have, all campuses have additional bleachers, for wherever they want to use them. Livingston High School, Merced High School, Atwater High School had music room remodeling done, whether it included knocking out some walls so that they can have more usable space, or some floors being redone. I know that there's been a lot of questions about, what about the Atwater High School pool and the Merced High School pool? Well, they're still at DSA. And my expectation was, we turned them in February. We expected them back in around July so that we can look at a late October, early November groundbreaking. That's probably not going to happen. And we won't know, I won't know how to tell you until we get this information back from DSA. And, you know, the architect involved does pressure DSA, come on, we need this. So, hopefully, in the next few weeks, we'll have some word from there, and then I can tell you what the timeline might look like.
So we don't know where we are on the list?
We're very close.
Yeah.
We're very
Approval?
close to, coming out of DSA, so, it should be, I think, within the next month.
I'm just curious, are they reporting to the office yet? Yeah, they're state employees. Do they actually go to the office yet?
Yes, they do. They were actually, back to the office as of this past month, I believe.
Oh,
Yeah.
gosh, maybe that could have something.
Yeah, so they've been flooded, and then not only that, but a lot of schools have started up their new construction again. So they're getting, tremendous amount of submissions right now, so. But we're lucky that we were ahead of the game at least.
Yeah.
So if it is approved, let's say, in the next month, what are we looking at as a completion then?
So depending on what they ask us to fix, there'll be a little give and take between them and the architect. We'll resubmit, and then once we receive or get close to receiving the plans, then they can start working on a bid package.
So any guesstimate?
I'd say maybe December.
That's what I'm thinking, December or January.
For approval.
For us to bring something to you in December with a groundbreaking 30 days after that, after you approve it.
And after that, the completion
year.
timeline is
About a
from
year.
that.
So, do you feel like we're going to get through this only taking one water polo season away?
Me
That's
too.
what it's looking like. I think we were shooting for part of a season and part of the next season, but I think here, if we start in January, the following year, there will not be water polo access.
At the time, yeah.
And then the following
So
year.
that would give you 18 months or
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, and.
Is that doable?
I believe it is, yes. I mean, we're gonna be, really proactive in making that happen, so that's our intent, to always try that.
Because that's the most disruptive issue here.
Yeah,
It is,
we had talked.
And not just for those school sites, it's,
right.
everyone's gonna have to share.
Yeah, and we've talked to the athletic directors, and I think they had a very good plan as to how to share that space.
They're really excited about having the facility, having a new facility, so they're willing to make some.
Sure. Okay, so that's where they are, and I promise I will keep you updated as soon as I know something new in the pulse. The new district office, we are working to get the kitchen open first. Those plans are still at the Merced County Department of Health, and we're hoping that we're gonna receive some of that any day now. We're trying to be patient with that because we also know that once the equipment begins to be ordered, we're still looking at 20 weeks. I hope. That's me being, an optimist, So we're looking at, either late spring or early next fall for us to move and start using that space. We have also begun, and I'm saying it, Robert left. I'm excited that we're going to be able, we started talks about the development of the BUHAC Colony Stadium and the El Capitan Stadium. So we had our meeting in June for the BUHAC Stadium. Hopefully we're going to get another meeting set up fairly soon to start nailing things down and then start developing the plans for that. And the same thing goes for El Capitan. The last thing that I'll tell you is that we had a project, a very extensive project. We closed down Golden Valley High School over the summer so we could change the HVAC systems on everything. And the machines were not ready. They're not going to be ready till September 15th or something like that.
Units are coming in within the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And so we're going to store them in one of our facilities until next summer, at which point we'll have to.
Yeah, they were waiting on one chip. The machines were ready, but they were waiting on one chip to be able to send them to us. So that project wasn't able to be completed. But we're excited. We're doing a lot of great things for kids, a lot of good facilities. And again, without them just keeping us on track, a lot of this stuff wouldn't be getting done. So, questions?
Yeah, Ralph, you mentioned Title IX. So where does that put us as far as district-wide addressing any Title IX issues that may surface?
Well, you know, there's this much in the pot, and for everything we try to do, we have to say this isn't going to get done.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we formed a plan last year and a half, things that we approved, things that made it onto the long-range facilities master plan. We're trying to follow that plan, and as other needs come up, you know, obviously we have to put things, if the water main at Merced were to bust, and we have to go replace it, well, that has to happen, and it bumps something else. So that's how we approach those items.
But if someone were to come up and say, hey, I've got a Title IX complaint
Mhm.
on this field or this, whatever it may be, I mean, obviously it's gonna probably bump itself up the list
Yeah,
a lot
yeah.
faster.
I think right now, I don't know that we have anything that is egregious
Okay.
like that, where we've ignored it. I think Scott's very careful about that.
And some of it's timing issues, that you can take a look at something that's like the softball diamond at Merced High. You need a better path of access that matches
Yes.
what you've got over on the baseball side. Well, you don't want to do it right now, because as soon as transportation and M&O move off of there, that whole area is probably going to get redesigned.
Right.
So you don't want to go put a massive amount of money into redesigning that access when 3 to 5 years from now, you're going to be redesigning that entire place. So part of it all falls into timing too.
Children, you mentioned the music room remodels were complete at what sites?
Livingston High School, Merced High School, and Atwater High School.
Thank you.
Golden Valley and the East Campus look beautiful. What a change, it just pops.
Yes.
It does, yeah. Right by.
Yeah, they are, and I you know, Livingston is the final campus that needs to be painted, and that will happen this summer.
Yeah.
Hey, Ralph, with these campus, is it a paint issue? Is it a manpower issue as far as that project not being done?
Yeah, they're trying, but when you don't have as many employees, these are big They're usually house painters or small business painters. And they bid on this, and they were the lowest responsive bidder, and, they're trying, but.
Even though they were the lowest bidder, they're still doing a good job.
Yeah, they're doing a fine job.
They're just way slower than they ever anticipated in, this project. Much slower.
So with something like
The final
that-
product will be fine.
Right.
It just takes longer to get to that point than it should have been.
There's a lot of handwork on these jobs too, isn't there,
Yes.
with some of that painting on the
Very
jobs?
much. I think when you saw what they did at Merced last year, and that was a different company as well, it was incredible to watch those guys, painting curled bars. It was just incredible how gifted they are, and that they had enough people to do all of it, so. But there's not a lot we can do about it, once we put it out to bid that way.
But also in our bid packages, though, there are timelines that obviously we shut down summer school in a certain site because they could take on the job and it'd be done by the time we started school in August. So as far as like the retention fees and all that other stuff, I mean, what is there?
Yeah, there's a way to go after liquidated damages,
Okay.
but it's so difficult because you have to prove that you lost access when they didn't finish on time. And when you don't, when kids aren't in session because it's a summer project, then really it's not worth us trying to sue them because you're not gonna get anything back. Because you can't prove that you lost access or students lost access.
Now, if they're here 3 weeks from now, that's different.
Yeah.
Well, as long as they stay out of the way, we still can't prove that, if they come in the evening and finish the trim, they may be here for another month. Right.
It's evenings and weekends.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you very much. Superintendent goal update, Mr. Johnson.
Your name's on the first one. Good Lord, it's hard to find good help.
Put him to paint.
Board members.
Put him to paint, put him to paint.
What's gonna happen here pretty quick? Here to talk a little bit about MTSS, give you an update, from the site perspective on the kind of things that they're working on, with this plan. So, MTSS is goal 4, identify and define what services will be provided to all students and who will be providing the services. Staff will have a common understanding of the terminology and services that are consistent and uniform across the district. And remember, we're just building tier 1. So the terminology we're talking about on the left-hand side, and you hear it in some of the conversations that you're hearing from these guys, because that's what the report is on. But I like LCAP because they're talking MTSS and the report wasn't on MTSS. So I like to hear the words, we're going to make decisions based on data. We're building relationships. We're going to explicitly teach kids behavior we want to see and behavior we don't want to see. And I like that we said, the Newton's talked about instruction, because if you do have high quality, first best instruction, that does cover a multitude of issues with kids with barriers. So, Tier 1 school-wide expectations that have to do with their maxims and who they are, academics and behavior and social emotional, character strong, what do we want to see from kids in the classroom? What do we want to see from kids outside the classroom? High quality instruction, how can we give access to all kids? The first time, we give a lesson. That's what this is about. Benchmarking is checking and seeing where you are, and screening and monitoring is not letting those kids fall through the cracks. So, that's tier 1, and you will hear from Mr. Jolly first. Okay.
So, good evening, President, Pickle, and Board, Superintendent Peterson, Cabinet, and Mrs. Robeck. So I get to talk about school expectations, which is kind of exciting. This is work that started before I got to Livingston High School, so it'll be my 3rd year there. So the maxims were created, and that is who we are. So that is, we create, we build, we share. And Love Purple Live Gold is something that Mrs. Ballinger started as principal there. That's about character and education. What does it mean to build community in your school? What does it mean to have character? And so our maxims, I think, are wonderful because they are aligned to the 4 C's. So 4 C's are the skills, maxims are the vision of readiness. And so that is how we are presenting it to staff. It's one of the things last year that we spent a good amount of time on working with our staff and, again, starting those conversations with students. What are the 4 C's? What does it mean to love, purple, and live gold? And our plan to continue with all of that is explicitly teaching that in the classroom, through video, going in and doing presentations. What does it mean to love purple? Having pride in your school, living gold is doing the right thing, having integrity, those sorts of things. And so those are things that can be taught. Those are things that we can have conversations about. Character Strong is something we'll be piloting in the spring as well, so excited about that. All students have lessons and a set of lessons based on their grade level, so we've had a few presentations about that. We're excited about our freshman seminar teachers, as well as our Wolfpack 9, which is our intervention group of students and teachers, as well as the English teachers that are teaching Character Strong. And then we are starting off our year next week with all staff with a Character Strong training to learn about the gym. So you can build community in the classroom. You can take those, presentate those ideas and activities and use them. So we've been using those in our modeling it through any kind of meeting that we have. We're gonna get a big group of people together. Hey, let's go ahead and do a quick activity. Reinforcing that again, the goal is, of course, at least 50% of students to get some kind of recognition. I think one of the things we know, if you work in the classroom or you're around the school or you have children or relatives in schools, sometimes kids that do the right thing don't really get recognized for what they're doing because somebody else is getting a little bit more attention. So we're going to be intentional, which is a good theme and an important word. Being intentional about saying, you know what, you really showed character, you showed living goals, or you know what, that collaboration that you guys did in that group, that work that you did was amazing, and this is how and this is why. So again, that's sort of recognizing, finding ways to do that, lots of ways to recognize students. So we'll be amping that up a lot more this year. And last year we spent time as well on signature assignments, and so the question is, how do you measure your success? If our school-wide outcome is that students have all of these skills in the 4 C's, and we say our vision is that they're able to walk into the world ready, creating, building, and sharing, how do we measure that? And so the work that we did last year with teachers was to, first of all, define signature assignments a little more. What are signature assignments? Well, that is the essential learning in that course. So the teachers decide what that is. Ultimately, what we want to see is kids being able to stand up and say, in their senior portfolios or really any point in time, they reflect and they're able to say, you know what, I really learned this piece in this project or this assignment. I feel like I really grew in critical thinking. It challenged me, yet I got through it, and I'm able to do this and that now. So that's kind of what the goal is, right? You want to see the kid's face and have them be ready to go out into life and be able to articulate who they are, what they did, what they learned, and just build their own sort of inner wealth in that way. And again, that's all subject areas. And so we do have, the focus of our common assessments. Our state assessments are, science, math, and English. However, people are working, kids are doing things in every single classroom, and so every single class has an opportunity for a signature assignment. So it could be small or it could be big, and that's, again, teacher choice. But that's something that we want kids to ultimately be proud of and share. So, and then hopefully, at the end of the year, later in the year, when you guys get invited to our senior interviews, for example, they'll be sharing their 4 C's, their pride pieces, and those signature assignments are going to be a key piece of that. If I'm talking too much or too fast, let me know.
Well, you literally just covered the rest of the presentation.
No,
That's okay. A lot of the same things that you're going to hear from me as well that are happening at Merced High School. I mean, it's really impressive and it's positive and it's encouraging that all of the sites really are doing this work. It's work that's necessary for our students because they need it right now. So at Merced High School, our maxims are represented by the word strong. So you can see them across the bottom there. Developing students that are successful, trustworthy, respectful, optimistic, they have a never-give-up attitude, and they are goal-oriented. So those are our maxims at our school. And so a few years ago, what we did was we tried to kind of honor our past as well as move forward with our maxims. So we put that together to be building strong scholars and champions. As you all know, the Merced has always been kind of referred to as the home of scholars and champions. So we've kind of combined those two things together. And so in the spirit of MTSS and what it's about, looking at all 3 of the levels that we need to provide support to our students, you can see across the top there, the 3 levels of academic, behavioral, and social emotional. So those are some of the things that we're doing listed underneath them that are going to be school-wide for every student. So our vision for readiness is kind of similar to what Mr. Jolly was talking about. A lot of the same types of things. We have deliverables, is what we call them at MHS, that all of the students will be able to produce that show their progress toward meeting our goals. Our vision for readiness is broken down
into 4 areas that directly align with the 4 Cs, as well as being effective users of technology and showing like a kind of grit, never give up type of situation. So when you look through our vision for readiness, it's outlined year by year, including a lot of the other things. You know, Character Strong is also linked into our vision for readiness. You can see that over on the social emotional side. So all of these things are just kind of connected together to try to build a whole student. The academic side right there, some of those are staff-based. As Charlie was talking about training, we're doing the same thing. Focus continues on our MUHSD must-haves. Our bare necessities are site focused, which are linked back to MUHSD's must-haves. This year, we're going to be going through more of a cycle of PD that are directly related to the topics that are going to support what we're doing in each of these areas of Tier 1. So for instance, our first PD cycle will be on collaboration and communication, 2 of the 4 Cs, and how we can, as a staff, better teach our students the skills that are going to show up to make, when you see them in class, make them communicate and collaborate in a more professional and more mature manner, basically. So again, about teaching the skills, explicitly teaching the skills. So that's what our first PD cycle will be. Our subject level collaboration, we're going to ramp that up this year with our teachers as well, and trying to get them to be more comfortable with giving each other feedback and talking to each other about the instruction that they see with each other. It's nice for administrators and coaches to go into the classroom and give feedback, but we also want to encourage our teachers this year to actually go and watch each other and give each other feedback in a much more safer environment, so that, you know, when they're talking amongst themselves, they tend to take that feedback a little easier than they are when they think they're being criticized, basically. So that's something we're going to try to support them with. And then obviously we have the normal expectations we've had with walkthroughs. And speaking of recognition, we are going to ramp up our efforts in our Bear Point store. We have that on campus. We had started that last year, and it went pretty well. Just recognizing kids, you know, when they're doing something good, recognize them, giving them points, and then they can go in the student body office and say, hey, I have this many points, what can I get? And we have a number of different things, whether it's clothing items, food items, things of that nature, or they can use them. Our underclassmen can use them to buy off-campus passes for the day, things of that nature. Just giving them a reason to try to do the right things, basically. So that's what that's about. And then the NOE is the Night of Excellence. We do that for all reasons, whether it's academic, behavioral, or social emotional. Students are nominated or they earn a right to be honored at our Night of Excellence, which we try to do twice a year, once in the winter time and once in the spring. So we really look forward to those. Those are good nights. I think last year we had about 500 people show up at the gym for our Nights of Excellence, which was great. So it's a really fun night for us because we just get to talk about good things with kids, so it's pretty awesome. As far as behavioral things are concerned, our strong positive behavior expectations, we are really going to focus this year, and again, you've heard this tonight, so I'm not the first person to say it, but we're going to focus on actually recognizing and teaching the behaviors that we want. So instead of telling kids what they can't do, which they hear all the time, we want to really focus on telling them what we want them to do and then recognizing them for it. So it's going to be really just a focus on just trying to create, you know, in the students the expectation and then holding them to it and rewarding them for it when they meet it. I think it's important. Sometimes we make a lot of assumptions in education that by the time a student gets to high school, they should know how to behave. They should know what we need them to do. A lot of times they don't. So we're going to really try to focus hard on trying to actually teach the types of behaviors that we want them to do and then support them and hold them up when they're doing things correctly. We just came back from the conference in Portland, got some great tools at Safe and Civil Schools, so we'll weave those in. We actually have new teacher training at the end of the week at the site. We'll be going over that, especially with some of them, and some more focused application on campus when things pop up. You see the Bear Point story there and the behavior again. And then we also have our restorative action plan, which is basically just what happens when a student does get in trouble at school. As I think it was Mr. Nunes, I mentioned it earlier, we really want to work on restoring relationships. So when things go bad in the classroom, we want that relationship restored. So, NHA, the one thing I'll note on the end there for the social emotional piece, I actually had a conversation with my AP, Ms. Hoffman this afternoon about it. We're very proud of, we're doing a lot of work. We're going to actually have a year-long school-wide mental health and wellness campaign this year. It's something we're excited about getting off the ground, where basically month to month, we're going to have a school-wide focus, and we're going to really try to teach the kids social, emotional, and mental health skills so that they actually know how to cope and they know how to deal with some of the stress and the things that they deal with. So we're excited about that too. And we'll get more information out to you all. Next slide.
So in order to get there, our instruction is the same. So in the classroom, that's where kids are most of the time. That is our focus, and that's important to make sure that everything is in place that needs to be. So for us, overall focus, again, those 4 Cs. If we have a narrow focus, we're able to keep on coming back to that. One of the themes this year was coherence, making sure that everything we do makes sense, it aligns to what we're doing, and just having that consistent going back to what it means to have 4 Cs. We recently went through a mid-cycle visit and walk, and great, that went really well. But one of the things they gave is just a little more feedback on our instructional leadership team. And so we're expanding that a little bit more, and we'll be in PACS. And so part of it is already started there, and we'll continue as just a cycle of letting teachers, first of all, teachers teaching teachers, having them welcome people into their classroom, and a chance for reflection. So that's sort of the instructional round piece, that type of thing. We have, monthly, regular professional learning opportunities, cohorts for PDs, and so we broke our teaching staff into different groups. They stay with them throughout the year. We also this year will be bringing back just a little bit more time. We feel like we need a little bit more time with teachers compared to COVID time. So pulling that for more, a longer discussions when needed for professional development. So a half day, maybe a full day. We already have this kind of planned out for the year. Again, like Mr. Knott said, we did go to Saving Civil Schools in Portland this summer, and I took back some things that I thought were pretty awesome. The STOIC framework, CHAMPS, and of course Jim Knight work, which that all kind of overlaps. I think they work with each other in ways as learning organizations. But again, what does the flow look like in your classroom? How are you teaching success? What does it look like when you have success? What are we doing to support kids so every single kid has access? And again, that whole reflection, all the main goals that we have, explicit instruction, there's some kind of built-in reflection, kids have voice and choice, and just feedback. This year we'll be adding professional growth plans as something as well. Every teacher, whether or not they're being evaluated, we'll be asking them to make their own plan. Again, that's supported in the contract, so, that's something that's out of the blue. And again, that's a personal opportunity too. I think it's empowering for a teacher to be able to say, like, this is what I'd like to work on, and it aligns with what the school is doing. But again, we'll be working with them, and being in a cohort with your walkthrough person will be an opportunity for us to have that more in-depth conversation and get more personal. The picture over there is just representing some of the work we did last spring. Basically, what does it look like when you are, what are students doing to show the 4 Cs and living purple and living gold? So what kind of activities are happening? What does that look like? What did you plan to do it? So those are taking notes, and that was the whole faculty that did that. So, yeah.
The next thing, this is a common slide that we have that we're doing with the benchmarking. I'm not going to go and sit and read through the entire slide, but you can see kind of the progress that we're making towards benchmarking. We have done some work with standards alignment already, and we've had extensive conversations. I know you all have too, about Carnegie Learning Math, and what we're going to be doing with Read 180, which will definitely provide some consistency. Excited about that. We've been doing interim assessment blocks for a long time, and we're excited about the use of Edge Elastic. So we have some tools that are definitely going to help us with benchmarking.
Pretty similar, yeah.
All right. So going on to this next part, this one is really important for us. This is going to be a big change for us at Merced High School. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it, but we've been trying to develop a more consistent way to screen and monitor our students. We were talking about data earlier, and just using information that is in our systems to better have an idea of who the students are that we really need to support before it becomes a major problem. So we have been working on it. One of our APs had a broad experience with him from a different district on how to use our pre-referral interventions in areas. So we're going to really push our staff to use the pre-referral interventions this year so that we can actually pull data and know who the students are that we really need to be focusing our attention on. So in a nutshell, what it amounts to is every Friday, we're going to be doing data pulls from the pre-referral intervention tabs
in a meeting with our intervention team, which is going to be made up of counseling staff, some of our other support staff that deals with our mental health type things, and some of our APs, and just really putting basically a hot list together every week of who we need to deal with, what we need to do, and what the follow-up for that is going to look like. And then from week to week, just kind of checking in on that. The process is we have an idea of what we want to do. We'll obviously make it better as we go week to week, but we're really excited about the possibilities of actually helping a large number of our students before they get into trouble, whether it's academically or behavioral or anything else.
So Marcus, what does that look like, a pre-referral?
So in Aries, there's a tab. So let's just say I'm a teacher and I have a student that I recognize is struggling, just say behaviorally, this is an example. I can put a pre-referral intervention. Whatever it is I do with that student, let's say I called home, maybe moved the kid's seat, maybe we had a mediation after class. I'm going to document that in pre-referral interventions. It's just a tab in Aries in the intervention tab. And so what happens is at the end of the week on Friday, when we pull the report for our meeting, all the students who have one of those entries for whatever reason are going to populate, and then we're going to have conversations on those students.
So it's basically a student that a teacher is concerned about or had a minor issue with.
And before, we had a Google form we were using for that, but it was really hard to get good data off of that form just because of the way it was. And we feel like with this, then once you start going into and you're connecting the other parts, it's just easier to pull information out of everything. We have the system, so we just need to use it. Kind of excited about that.
So, Mr. Knott, will teachers be, I'm just trying to think, if we're going to go through the pre-referral process, will they, like discipline-wise, not input it on Aries yet so that you can get the pre-referrals?
Well, the pre-referral is in Aries.
Well, okay, so then,
It's a part of Aries, yeah.
so then what's going to trigger then, say, a teacher writing, let's say you did something wrong and I'm just going to discipline you in Aries and note it and yada, 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 before the pre-referral?
No, so the pre-referral is just basically a record of what they did, essentially. So, if a kid gets sent out of class, if it escalates to that and they get sent out of class, it'll get documented by our intervention center teacher. That's different. But if this is what we want to happen before the kid gets sent out of class, essentially. So, and that's in a behavior situation, but it could be academic, it could be social emotion, it could be anything. And we used, before, like I said, we called it an RTI Google form is what we had before. This will replace that. And it's basically just a way for our staff to alert us when there is, like Ms. Peterson said, a concern for a student. And so we can follow up on our end when we pull that report. We'll have data.
So it's more of being proactive.
Yes, that's the goal. And what will happen, and we already anticipate this, is let's say, if you entered a student, well, you may have had the same problem in your class, and you may have had the same problem in your class. We pull the report, that kid's going to come up 3 times. We're going to go, okay, let's move him to the top of the list. He's obviously having some issues. So that's what this will help us. Questions?
I am just proud of the fact that how you guys are taking this MTSS thing and making it work. I mean, you talk about all the resources that we built you guys have built these past several years. You compile that with obviously the ongoing with the training up in Oregon with Safe and Civil. You each have your maxims that you're working on at your school sites. And, it's targeted towards, doing what's best for every single kid and then scaling up depending on their individual needs. So I applaud you guys for the work that you've been doing these past several years. Thank you guys very much for that.
It's a lot of action research. So
Yeah.
we're going to run into some barriers, but, Mr. Peter committed to building the MTSS Tier 1, so we will clear those barriers and pull it down.
A lot of moving parts, and you're hitting them all.
Yep.
And the detail and the dedication to it, and
As far as the conference in Oregon, are there some key takeaways that maybe you guys, and not for now, but maybe for next month, there's some things that you guys took back and said, these are some top 3 or 4 that we're going to work on for this school year?
Sure. I mean, it's up to the individual school principal of what they're going to take back. But for me, it's having a model for classroom management.
Yes.
I heard from teachers loud and clear, kids were, a little tough. They weren't used to being in school. And so if you don't have a model, if you're just trying to control 40 kids or motivate 40 kids to do the right thing all the time is difficult. So, Safety Civil Schools has a model, it's called CHAMP. And it's very, I don't want to say prescriptive, but it's structured. And then it allows for teacher individuality in there. You know, we had a Read 180 training today, and a lot of what they talked about was, well, it's group work. So how do you manage students in group work? Everybody's like, oh, gosh, you know, if I'm over here with these, and the group is way over there on the other side, I'm nervous, you know, and that's classroom management. I hear that a lot. Whenever we try to do something that involves hands-on or group or collaboration, it's like, well, how do I control those kids over there? Well, it all goes back to MTSS. You have to explicitly teach them the behaviors you want to see, reward them for those behaviors when they do them in class. You hold them to high expectations, and kids will rise to those, you know, but it's got to be consistency. And so that's, but be happy to talk about it more.
And I like the idea of obviously the teacher, you know, whether it's their eval or whatever that process is gonna look like. Also, everyone having a growth plan for the year, what that's gonna look like, but yeah, it's great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Dr. Weimer, 22-23 budget update.
I got in here, and I got everybody always leaves the room. Budget.
This is the exciting part right here, right?
And El Cap left. I was going to say I'm expecting to attend their first rally, and I hope to see their new culture club doing. If not, I'm going to be.
You can lead the way.
I will get up there and do it. Okay, if there are significant budget changes from the original adopted budget, we have 45 days to present an update. So we do have the update. We do not know all of the pieces yet for sure, but we know most of the pieces. So we can give an update on that. So what we do know is that COLA remained at 6.56%, but in addition to that, they increased the LCFF base rate by 6.28%. So both of those things are ongoing funds. We do want to be mindful of that increase in the LCFF base rate of 6.28%. That is ongoing money, and when the legislature was asked, are you going to be able to pay that when the times aren't as good as they are right now, the answer was, well, we've got enough savings account to get us through a few years. So that's always something that you might want to be mindful about and a little bit concerned about, but it is right now ongoing funds. It does come with a little bit of timing issues. Last Friday, we did get GDP numbers, which was the second quarter of negative GDP growth. So the common term would be we are now in a recession because we have had two negative GDP quarters in a row. And we got this week the updated Big Three revenue outlook from the LAO, which they are saying there's a 70% likelihood that they will not meet the 22-23 tax targets, and they're expecting to be at least right now $5 billion short for the 22-23. That won't affect this year. It will put them to the test of what they said next year, and are they going to dip into those reserves to make sure that that ongoing money that they promised us continues to actually be ongoing money. So for 22-23, our revenue is up from $177 million to $186. For 24-25, the structural deficit is $1.27 million with an ending balance of $11 million, and there's a chart here in a second that'll make this a little bit. And for 25-26, the structural deficit is $4.5 million with an ending balance of 6.5. So that's just the key points to that. You can see it on the chart that we've got here. So you do have now our 22-23 new income with expenses. You see a large negative spending in 22-23 because we have lots of COVID money still that is going to get spent out this year. The HVAC units alone are going to be close to $10 million, and so that's going to be an expense that puts us into that negative. But the reason is because we've already received the money. So we have the money, it was in last year's stuff. So we're going to be seeing negative balances for 22-23, 23-24 as we spend those funds down. For 24-25, this is the last year that we have the current one-time monies. you see that we have a we have a deficit of $3 million in 24-25, but about 1.6 of that is the last of the COVID money. So there's only really about a $1.5 million deficit in that year, and we have a 25-26 though. There's no COVID money left, and we do see in that year a $4 million deficit. So we do have to look at things and be careful of what happens in the off year. We got money right now for one-time expenses, and the COVID expenses that we can be spending down, but the ongoing, we do need to be careful about those out years that we have a budget year. You can then see the beginning balance and ending balance and the deficits. What we don't know right now, though, is ADA. So we are at a low ADA because of COVID. We've been stuck since the year where we basically were shut down, and that's the ADA that we've done. We've grown since then, but we have not been able to grow in ADA. We're stuck at that basic level. Last year, quarantine levels kept us below that ADA level, so we're still stuck at that level that we had before. If ADA were to return to normal, that would take care of that structural deficit in 24-25. So we have a few years as long as we can get back to that ADA level that we're at, because we've had enrollment growth. It's going to start to flatten out right now for a year or two. I can't assume or even imagine that it won't start to go up again as I watch all of the construction that I see going on here, and as people start moving in there, you would assume in a couple of years that will start to go up again. And as long as our ADA returns to normal levels, you'll see the funds come in that would offset that negative balance, and we would probably be a little bit into positive if the ADA gets back to normal. We are seeing some home-to-school transportation increases. We're going to be a little bit careful for that. Luckily that we hired some new bus drivers last year, and we'll get to count that as part of our formula on what we will be reimbursed going forward and some of those increases. But we are in a little bit unique situation. The legislature always does things for elementary schools, and then we have to figure out what that means for us later. We have to now separate home-to-school transportation from all of our other activities because we don't get any reimbursement or funding for our other activities. So when a bus driver is going to and from school to take the kids there, that counts for reimbursement, but when they get in the bus and go take somebody to a football game, that doesn't count. So we have to make sure we're getting all of those things correct so that we can get some of that home-to-school transportation increase. We do get a one-time block grant. This is an estimate now. The reason it's not in the numbers before is because the state has not given us a resource code in the actual amount. This is the estimate from school services, which usually tends to be pretty accurate. So we will be getting a one-time grant of the 18.7, and we have 25-26 to be able to use that. One of the purposes was to make sure that if you do run into anything like that, that you don't have to reduce staffing or do anything like that to take care of that, that you would have that one-time money to help offset that. That was one of the purposes that they stated. We also have another one-time grant that we'll have several years to spend, which is $6.8 million, and this is where they likes to play interesting games. They basically gave us money that has a variety of uses, but then they put a title on it because they wanted to really look good to specific populations. They called it an art and music grant, but it doesn't have to be spent on art and music. So we do have to put a plan together, so you will see us collecting input from sites and all of the different stakeholders on how we want to be able to spend that money. The 18.7 will just become part of the regular budgeting process. The 6.8 does have to have a plan that will come before you on how we want to actually spend that. All of these things you will see updated then once we finally have the resource codes and the actual amount. When we do the first interim, that money will all be in there, and so we will have a really good position in first interim to be able to tell you exactly what the numbers are going to be. It's not going, because I think that's the last slide. Questions on that part? So good news, mindful, I'm a little concerned, but mindful is probably a better word than concerned about. All right, so then the next one.
Thank you, Dr. Weimer. In-person instruction? Okay.
So one of the things that we have to do as a condition of receiving the ESSER funds is that occasionally go over the return to in-person learning and continuity of service, say that 5 times fast. And so we have an update here that tells you where we are on a variety of things. There is one line here that's going to be in red. I'll make sure I note that when we get to that, which is different than what's in your packet because it actually changed today. So that change is in here, so you'll be able to see that. Things that we are currently doing, these will be our practices starting for the next week, actually starting next week. Personal protective equipment and facilities. Masks are currently optional in all settings. Masks, gloves, and hand sanitizers are in stock and available at all campuses. So all of those types of things that we had before are still there and still available. HVAC systems continue to be set to provide the most fresh intake as possible based on conditions. Conditions not being good right at the moment for that type of intake. As you get into the 102, 104 degree weather, it is harder to do intake because then the system can't cool that air down. So you can't take air when you have a hotter day like we've had now. But as we get into later in August and September, you'll get a really good air fresh coming through those systems. HVAC systems that are older than their expected life cycle are being replaced when we can get the chips. And so as they come in, we do have all of the Golden Valley plus a variety of ones at other campuses that are being replaced to make sure that we do have the best filtration systems and the best tools. COVID testing, and again, I'll get to that red line here real quick because that's the one that's changed. Per Cal OSHA, we have 2 different groups that are pretty much guiding us right at the moment. You have the California Department of Public Health that gives us information as a school entity, and you have Cal OSHA that gives us information as an employer. And so we have rules that come from both of those. Cal OSHA is the one that governs us as an employer and how we deal with our employees. Unvaccinated staff must be tested weekly still. That's a Cal OSHA rule. And so that will be taking place still. Positive cases must quarantine and may return after 10-day quarantine or on day 6 if they have tested negative. And they can test every day after that day 5, and as soon as they get a negative test, they can come back. On day 10, if they are still testing negative, their quarantine time is up and they are able. Those contacts must test on day 5. If you're a vaccinated staff, you continue to work, and then you have to do that test on day 5, and as long as you're negative, you're good. If you were positive, then you fall into the quarantine now because you have a positive. Unvaccinated staff must be in quarantine until they take that test. That one is still a little bit of a concern for us on staffing for those people who fall into that close vaccinated category. Students who participate in sports that practice and play indoor settings will continue to test, and that is red, and that is no longer true. As of today, we got the recommendation that we do not have to do that, so the district will not need to test indoor athletes, only symptomatic athletes, and days 6 to 10 if positive. So if you have a symptomatic athlete who tests positive, then they have to come back after 5 days, and on day 6, they can test. Day 7, they can test. Day 8, they can test up in those 5 days until they get a negative test or come back on the 10th day.
And this is home testing?
For students, no. For the staff ones up there, we will be, for the unvaccinated staff that must test weekly, we will be allowing, don't we say anything wrong, we will be allowing a home test for that. For the students, that will be tested on campus, correct?
Correct. Close contact staff is also.
Close contact staff is also on campus. So the only one that would be a home test is this. That line right there was probably one of the biggest issues for our ADA last year. And so with the change there, I would expect us to get back to normal ADAs a little bit faster than if we were still under the. Notifications will continue to follow Cal OSHA and CDPH guidelines. We do have Mr. Calderon's famous end of the week notices that tell us how many, Ms. Ballinger and Ms. Johnson's emails that come to us that we send to our folder that tell us how many people have gone out site. Those things will continue to happen. And continuity of service, which meant a lot more when we were shut down, because continuity of service means how are you going to provide services to students when you have a shutdown or they're not on campus. There is no longer any provision in state law for distance learning. The only opportunities are you're in the classroom or you go on an independent studies contract. So those are our only two options. Given the fact that there are only two options, if we were to have to shut down for some unforeseen reason or do something, we would basically have to use the independent studies model for all of that time. Contract, you would sign it, you would give them the work, and then they credit for ADA based on the work in this. Much choice on that. That's pretty much what's there. Distance learning is not really an option for ADA. They're going to be coming up with some new guidelines for us for September, so we will be able to get CSBA's recommendations on that. They might be a little bit lenient on some distance learning. They don't call it distance learning, but it's basically virtual options where you could actually count some of that as possible time. So, but it would still have to be within the independent study structure. It would not just be a teacher gets to do, a broadcast to a specific contracts. You have to outline what's going to happen. You have to, for the assignments and everything as they come. They broadcast to the class today, you get to count them for.
Just the synchronous requirements, and some of those just aren't going to be as stringent.
Yes. Guidance, the Merced Junior High School District follows the orders and regulations of the Merced County Department of Public Health and Cal OSHA. So those are our two agencies. We also continue to review the guidance that's provided by the Centers for Disease Control and the California Department of Public Health. Both of those two organizations are basically just doing recommendations at this particular point. Directives and orders that we get would come from the County Department of Public Health and Cal OSHA. MUHSD practices are updated as new guidance is provided, and the COVID prevention plan is available at muhsd.org, and it is there whenever it is updated. Questions on that?
What will staff be using those cameras that we purchased for now?
I'm going to punt. Dragula, what will the student teachers be using?
There are a lot of different options that we can use them for. Nothing immediate right now. No.
Yeah, we have one right now.
Awesome.
So this is one of them right here. Principals, any ideas on how those might be? Never mind. We don't have plans for them at this moment.
2 days ago, was that yesterday? I guess that was yesterday, wasn't it? When I was talking to the leadership team, we were having a brief discussion about summary of, COVID and things that happened, and I complimented our Scott and the finance team that out of all of the baloney we went through, that we really only made one bad purchase.
Which one?
One you just brought up. And it wasn't really bad. We just didn't know, right? I mean, we had to do what we had to do. But relative to what I have watched other districts do, we did it pretty good.
I would assume there's going to be uses for a handful of them on a campus, but not for every classroom. You could get to the point where if you wanted to have a teacher who shared something across classes, you could have classes visit between other campuses and share ideas. You could use those for those types of things. I don't see that being a extensive, large use, but you have the ability to be able to do things that we didn't have before. How long it will take for people to want to jump on board of those or something. You could do a competition between art classes in the district where Art 4 at each campus gets on and shows what they're doing at their campus and the other classes across campus and across the school. There's a variety of things that could come up. We haven't started pushing those buttons yet to push those to see what we could do.
There are some teachers that have students that have asked to use them, but after some data that I got today about a teacher that has a terabyte worth of storage, I don't know if that's it's
wow.
My wife, for example, so she teaches a film class, and she does a lot of video. So anyway, there's potential, but then you have to offset that with storage and
Yeah.
other things that our IT department is working through.
But I think, to Mr. Peterson said, I think it was better to be prepared than not, so. I was just wondering what we're gonna do with them, that's all. Or if there's, we thought about that.
You can find someone that wants to buy maybe 500.
Well, and that's what I was thinking, like,
That's
we sell it.
potential if we get to that point.
Yeah.
We can have the option to go obsolete and see what we can get.
So we gotta wait for this new virus thing to see what happens with it.
So there is that lead, correct?
Thank you, Dr. Lawrence. Next, we have Employee Association comment period. KSBA?
All right, so good afternoon. I didn't prepare anything because I was ripping and running, and so I even thought about doing it on my phone while I was here, but. So President Bickle, School Board, Mr. Peterson and Cabinet, heard some wonderful things again tonight. Kudos to each and every one of you, with the things that you talked about in the plan going forward. I just want to, make sure that you guys don't forget about the classified. When you talk about how you're gonna get to that many students, the classified play a very big role in that. Because we see them sometimes, when you come through that door, and in any one of the sites, who do you see first? Okay, so I want you guys to remember that when you're talking about the teachers and all this other stuff, that you're missing a very important piece of the puzzle, and that's us. Okay. Moving forward, I wanted to just give you an update on the, last year we had to file a couple of PERB charges. We'll be going in tomorrow on one of them. I think we've worked out, the IT issue. I am speaking for myself. I hope that we don't have to file any more PERB charges because I think that we are approachable and I think that, we have a pretty good relationship. I think that Mandy Ballinger is somebody special. It was a good move. We're putting her in the position that she's in. I have no plans on any more PERB charges because I think we can work it out. Okay. Transportation has some issues. I'm hoping that, they can be worked out. I'm gonna follow the, chain of command. I'll do the cabinet meeting or whatever and share first, and hopefully, we can get it straightened out that way. Just know the school year starting. Every time I get a call, you guys are gonna hear about it, okay? So that's why I'm asking you guys to, whatever the issue is, please clean it up. And then I wanna share with you guys, okay, I went to Vegas and Mr. P joined me there, and I wanna tell you that, no other superintendent showed up for their member that received this award. Mr. P showed up. He didn't send somebody, he showed up. That made a very, not just a big impression on me, but the 2,000 people that was in the audience, you know? The white boy from Hillmark just wooed them all, you know what I'm saying? And then, you know, he just showed a different side that I hadn't seen, and then we had a little few jokes, and he was able to flow with it. So, in saying that, Mr. P is a pretty, I did put do not disturb, but I think they're trying to get me to get a new phone, and I just can't afford one right now. But I wanted to say that I have a whole new respect for Mr. Peterson. Just the idea of him showing up and being there. Just know that I didn't get up there and speak like I'm speaking to you guys. I kind of folded, I cracked. Because that's not what I do. I do things but behind the scenes. And so to be acknowledged for what I do was just really out of character for me. Mr. P gave a wonderful speech. Again, it was just amazing. Just know that Vegas, oh my gosh, Vegas is what they say Vegas is. It's not for me. It's not for me. I have my little time, fame and all that stuff. I couldn't walk to the casino without somebody knowing who I was. It was like I was a star, you know? And this one guy, he had a strawberry beard and a hat, he didn't have nothing CSCA on. And I'm walking, trying to get back to my room because I'm leaving my cousins and gambling, you know, and this wasn't me. And he walked up on me, and I had my room key in his hand, and I cocked back with this thing. He said, CSCA. I said, oh, okay. Like, then I smiled at him, you know, but I was really, that's how far out of my, you know, I was. And so, just know that it was very, humbling, for the things that the districts were talking about, I got to hear about. Our district is pretty much ahead of the game. A lot of the, districts don't even do, summer assistance for their employees. And I thought that was pretty shocking, you know, then, they wanted to know how they could get our superintendent, but just know we're not gonna let them go, right? We're gonna keep them, okay? And that's pretty much all. I just wanted to share that with you and let you know that, I had a good time. I was able to, eventually whoosh because I was really out of my, it just wasn't, for those that, so you guys don't know me like that. So when I was 18, I got a job working for Winchell's Donut House. I was the manager. I can make you donuts, by the way, you guys. But I had to go to Sacramento to do the training. I never left outside of Merced. So I was gonna turn the job down. And my older sister, I had a brand new car, drove me to Sacramento in my car, okay? Got on the bus and came home, and I've been going ever since. But that's who I am, you know, and I'm more behind the scenes, like I said, but this was very, humble for me. It was very honorable and humble, it just made me, you're just doing what you do. You're just doing what you do. You never really take time to stop and really realize the people that you impact or the things that you do. You just do it. And so this made me stop and really think about things that I've done. You know, and in saying that, I don't regret any of it. I don't regret any of it. Being the president of CSCA, I'm proud, but I love the idea of standing up here and using this podium to fight for our students. And you guys, Christy, you guys know that the mental health thing was broken, but you guys admitted to it, and you're getting it right. You know, to admit to mistakes and get it right, that's all I have. So you won't hear no complaints from me. When I come up here, I'm gonna be like, CSCA in the house, you guys are doing a good job, thank you very much.
Well, before you go, congratulations on your well-deserved recognition, I think.
Thank you.
All of us.
There's more to come on that.
Well, and thank you for your show of support too, Mr. Peterson. I know that obviously it's meant a lot, and
And he did share that with all of us right away as well.
Oh.
Yeah.
And just know he did good, because I'm telling you, we kind of threw a little drive-by, some little certain things out there, and he just.
Well, we need that video too.
Yes. All right, PTA? Nope, okay. Then do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second. Okay, we'll call for the vote then. I'm an aye, Mr. LeBlanc.
Yeah, no.
Thank you.
Bessie, I'm an aye. Passed yet?
Motion carries 4-0. Before we move on, Mr. Lopez is gonna, thank the donors for us.
So we have Stanislaus Community Foundation. We have Hoffman Electric Systems, Alan Leslie Caseo, Rustam Fayat and Rosa Maria Valado, Jeff and Ginger Chan, Diaz Mexican Grill, Stanislaus Community Foundation, MCOE, Lucia Tejeda, Food Grace Solutions. Thank you very much for your contributions.
Okay, first action item, acceptance of annual financial audit report period ending June 30, 2021. Dr. Weimer.
So facilities, was not the only one who is having, issues with things being late and delays. This is actually the 2021 audit. This is not the 21-22 audit. And so this is about 7 to 8 months later than what we would normally be presenting it to you. The auditors, they kept asking the state for an extension. They had COVID issues, they had back to work issues, they had staffing issues. They had a wide variety of issues, but we did finally get the audit for 2021, which is required. There were no findings, no material weaknesses identified, no significant deficiencies were reported. So I do want to do a nice shout out for Sonia Garcia and Laura Aguilar and the fiscal services team out here at the district, and all of the bookkeepers at each of the sites and the people who work with student body offices. To have a audit with no findings at the site level, let alone at the district level, is not that frequent. So even the issues that were from the previous audit, which was only one, had been addressed, and so that was not brought up again in this particular. So the superintendent recommends the Board of Trustees accepts the annual financial audit report through June 30th, 2021.
So moved.
Second?
Seconded.
We will call for the vote then, please. I'm an aye. Motion carries 4-0. And thank you to the fiscal services team and the sites, because no findings and that many high schools, student body offices, and so that is pretty impressive. Thank you. Next item, annual declaration of need of fully qualified educators. Mrs. Bellinger.
Good evening again. State law requires that districts file an annual declaration of need for fully qualified educators with the Commission on Teacher Credentialing. The purpose of that declaration is to identify those projected positions that are difficult to fill with fully credentialed individuals, and to anticipate a need that we're going to need to hire teachers with emergency credentials. The HR department has evaluated the availability of fully credentialed teachers based on our candidates, and we find the current need to grant teachers with emergency credentials in the following areas: emergency clad and EL authorization 5, and limited assignment permits 10. This is an estimate, so we may come back and say we need more. We may not use all of them, but that's an estimate of what we'll need. So any revisions will necessitate board approval. Just a note on the emergency EL authorizations, and you'll see that again when I do the one of the other agenda items. Our teachers who are on CTE credentials, and they get their preliminary credentials, that they have a credential, but they don't get the EL authorization until it's cleared. So some of our newer CTE teachers, that's why we need that one for, we need 5 of those. So the superintendent recommends the board approve the declaration of need for fully qualified educators for the 22-23 school year.
So moved.
Any discussion?
Can you clarify what limited assignment permits are?
Yeah, so the limited assignment permits are ones that teachers get when they have a full credential, but they're teaching a subject area that they maybe didn't have that subject authorization yet. So they can get a limited assignment permit for 1 year, and during that year, they have to either take classes in that subject area or pass a subject matter test in order to renew it. If they don't proceed towards getting that subject matter, they can't get it again.
So those are the ones that are teaching out of their...
Yeah, they're out of the one that they're credentialed
Okay,
in.
got it. Thank you.
Call for the vote then, please. I'm an aye, Mrs. Roebuck. Motion carries 4-0. Mrs. Ballinger owns the podium for the rest of the evening, so
Alright.
we've got, board approval of certificated assignments.
Yeah, under the provisions of old regulations from the Commission on Teacher Credentialing, the Board of Trustees must take action on each request for a variable term waiver. The Commission on Teacher Credentialing requires that waivers be requested for individuals who are not fully credentialed in a specific area. The district's practice is not to request waivers except for in areas where there's a shortage of available candidates. We are requesting 3 waivers in the area of EL authorization for our CTE credentialed teachers, and those are the ones I mentioned. They have a preliminary credential, but they don't get the EL authorization until it's clear, and then 2 administrative waivers. David Brantley is our CTE Arts, Media, and Entertainment teacher at Livingston High School. He is currently enrolled in the credential program with Orange County Office of Education, working to obtain his clear CTE credential. Once he obtains that credential, he'll receive his EL authorization. Walter Fernandez was offered a position at Atwater High School to teach career technical education in the area of construction trades. Upon completing his credentialing program with Orange County Office of Education, he will also obtain that EL authorization. Lisa Bergarello was offered a position at UHAC Colony High School to teach CTE in the area of hospitality, tourism, and recreation. Upon completing her credentialing program with Fresno County Superintendent of Schools, she will receive that EL authorization. Phaedra Hoffman was offered an associate principal position at Merced High School. She is currently enrolled in the admin credentialing program with Madera County Office of Education and working towards her administrative credential, which she'll complete this fall semester. And then Dinya Amador was offered an associate principal position at Yosemite High School. She is currently enrolled in the credentialing program at Stanislaus. She's actually completed all of her coursework. She just has to finish up some other things. So she'll be completing it in the spring semester. The superintendent recommends the Board of Trustees approve the waivers as submitted for the 22-23 school year.
So moved.
That. Okay. Are there any, questions? Okay, we'll call for the vote then, please. I'm an aye, Mrs. Roebuck. Motion carries 4-0. Next, we have substitute teacher bonus pay for school year 2022-23.
The district, like most, has experienced a decrease in available substitute teachers the past 2 years. It's mostly because they can teach in multiple districts, so they go different places. So we came up with a recommendation that we implement a structured bonus for substitute teachers who teach consecutive days in our district for the 22-23 school year. The bonus pay will incentivize substitute teachers to work more in our district. The structured bonus is outlined as substitute teachers who teach 15 consecutive work days within the district will receive a $150 one-time bonus. Those who teach 30 consecutive days will receive an additional $300 one-time bonus. And then those who teach 45 consecutive days will receive an additional $450 one-time bonus. And then after 45 days, that cycle will reset. If at any point they miss a day in that cycle, it would just reset, so they still have the opportunity to earn the bonuses. The bonus pay structure is for the 22-23 school year. Summer school would not be included. And then the use of any sick days or missed days would break that continuity of the consecutive days. The superintendent recommends the Board of Trustees approve the structured bonus pay for substitute teachers for the 22-23 school year.
So moved.
Any questions?
Yeah, how did we come up with those numbers?
I worked with Merced City School District, and so that was kind of what we came up, we thought would incentivize it. So both our districts are using that same structure.
Call for the vote then, please. I'm an aye, Mrs. Roebuck. Motion carries 4-0. Prudential provisional internship permit.
Trustees must take action on a request for a provisional internship permit. Those are our PIPs. Initial issuance of these documents began in July of 2005, and they will replace emergency permits. The Commission on Teacher Credentialing requires that PIPs be requested for individuals not fully credentialed in a specific area, but meet a certain criteria. The district's practice is to request PIPs where there is a shortage of available candidates that have not met the subject matter competence that are pursuing a teaching credential. At this time, we are requesting 1 PIP in special education, mild to moderate disabilities, and 2 PIPs in social science. This is the only document these individuals are eligible for. Stephanie Garcia obtained her Bachelor of Arts degree from CSU Stanislaus in history, and she'll be enrolling in the credential program, working towards her single subjects in social science. Ryan Sanchez received his Bachelor of Arts degree from Hawaii Pacific University in history. He will be enrolling in the credential program with CSU Stanislaus and working towards his single subject in social science. And Danielle Valadez obtained her Bachelor of Arts degree in child development and is currently enrolled in a credential program with Brandman University, working towards her special ed credential in mild moderate disabilities. Superintendent recommends the Board of Trustees approve the provisional internship permits as submitted for the 22-23 school year.
So moved.
Call for the vote then, please. I'm an aye, Mr. Roebuck. Okay, motion carries 4-0. Thank you, Mr. Bellinger. Next, we have superintendent's report.
So, President Pickle, we should have done this at the beginning of the meeting, but I just want to recognize the longtime board member. I believe it was 8 or 12 years for our district. And this man served in this community in many, many capacities, and he will be missed. I'd like to have a moment of silence for Bob Weimer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. And our condolences to you, Dr. Weimer, and your family.
B, thank you for the setup. I think she did a very nice intro. I don't need to say much. McGill, if you can get that ready, I would like everyone watching, and I would like this in the public record. So here we go.
My name is Beatrice McCutcheon. I retired as a health aide. Currently, our job title has changed due to the evolving of all the different things we have to do now. And we're just the nurse's right arm, basically. We fill in where we need to.
Well, I'm actually glad that you didn't ask me to describe me in one word. I don't know that that's possible. She's a very complex person, and you have to be for what she does. Working in the health industry and being union president, she takes on many roles, many hats. She's a great combination of fire and passion. She does an excellent job at giving a voice to people who don't always know how to. And on the flip side, she's also very compassionate and understanding. When I first started, it was a tough situation. A student was intimidating me, and B actually came to my rescue and helped to de-escalate the situation. She is really good at de-escalating students in an emotionally tense situation. We see students that are struggling with different things, sometimes drug-related behavior concerns, mental health concerns. She does her best to support students in any of those, and always in a non-judgmental way. She sees beyond that. She sees the student, their struggles, where they came from.
I tell the kids, I tell people, there's nothing that you can say to me that I haven't heard before. So that kind of opens up the doors for them to feel that, you know, I'm on the same playing field they are.
Really, her biggest impact that I see, and have seen here for years with B, is the relationships that she builds with kids. So we have students who maybe won't open up to their counselor or open up to administration, but Ms. B has a bench right across from her desk. And a lot of times, if you place a student there, within about 10 minutes, she can crack them, and she's able to get to a core of what's happening. It's so important for a kid to have at least one person on campus, and a lot of times for us, that's B.
I love students, period. It's just bred in me to be able to help others, especially kids, to see them be successful and giving them the tools to be successful is what I do. I don't know no other way of living my life but to help. I take on challenges that probably nobody else would. I have a great nephew that we got right before probably turned a year old. Me and my husband have been raising. Dad called, bad situation. Mom had left him and he wasn't able to raise him on his own. Me and my son took a trip down to San Bernardino. We brought the young man back. He's 6 years old now. Just in November, we took on some kids that are 2 and 4 that initially, the mom went to the school I currently work at. In June, she got into a car accident, and so we didn't know how to help her but to get her kids out of foster care. So the kids are with us now. We're trying to give them the tools that they need to be able to make it through life.
Anybody who basically steps foot on this campus, he assumes responsibility for, and it's not just medically. Her role as CSCA president, she serves a district full of staff members who at times need help, need assistance, need advice. She's an advocate, and she's willing to step out of her comfort zone to make changes for the benefit of the community as a whole.
She's also been one who has impacted our members to stand up for themselves, to educate them, to not let them be intimidated. She wants to ensure that they know their rights and that if they have any questions or concerns, that they feel free to come forward.
She is truly just herself, and I think that's an important quality, that she comes to work and she lays it on the line. She doesn't mince words. She's very direct, and that's something that you need in a president and someone who's representing a whole body of people.
What I enjoy about being a part of the union is because it's like an extended family. So you know how we can fight amongst each other, but don't mess with my brother, don't mess with my sister? It's kind of like that. We get into our little bickers, but don't come from my family, because when you come from my family, you're coming from me. And so I love the idea that we are a family, no matter what, we stick it out. She brought me back on board because as a retiree, and as a retiree, I wanted to serve under her leadership on the E-Board, because I know that she exemplifies 100% of what a true leader is. She has taught me more these 2 years about myself and about what true leadership means. She loves students, she loves children, and she loves people, and that's why she has a heart of service for the union.
So I would like to tell Ms. B that I want her to enjoy this moment. She can be very humble at times and maybe even embarrassed by the acknowledgement, but I want her to take the time and really drink in what it means to get this award and truly accept it, because she does make a huge impact every day for our kids, for building relationships with kids. Thank you, B, for everything that you have taught me, what you teach students on a daily basis and staff. You always tell us to keep pushing forward even when it gets hard, that we have to stay in the fight to do what's best for others, and that's always something that I take with me. You continue to teach others that there's always more that we can do.
You have been an impact to me and to others because of your knowledge, your caring, your love, your compassion, your fight, your spirit, your humor, and with what you have brought our members together more. I know at first you doubted yourself and your ability, but you have proven what it takes to be a leader. And I hope you never doubt your ability again.
So, B and I were watching this, they have what's called the green room, and there was one group ahead of us, and then this video started, and we're kind of behind the screen. And it was all good until her family came up on the screen, and then, you know, I could see her tearing up, and I started to tear up, and at one point I had to walk away. She didn't even know that, you know, because in 2 minutes we were going to be out in front of 2,000 people, and it just, that wasn't cool. So, but yeah, I just want to say thank you for being you, and I hope everyone here understands that was a big deal. I hope you understand that. And, you know, there's only 3 in the state. You know, this district probably never has had someone recognized like that, and probably never will again in our careers. There are 2 more videos on the homepage. You can see them at your leisure for anyone that's listening. So, had a great time there, Dee. Thank you. I want to congratulate Mandy O'Nate. She is the Livingston High School Student Body Secretary, and she was chosen as the county classified Employee of the Year. So I think it's pretty cool. Livingston High School produced the Teacher of the Year a few years ago, and now classified. And the way that is chosen, that nobody is involved. You know, some people think those are setups or something, and that it's not that way. There are members of the credit union, of the public, and Steve Teagan, I believe, is involved in that. And just congratulations to Mandy. Well done. Well deserved. Roundups started today at our school sites. Exciting week for everybody, really. Freshmen are getting the things they need to get off to a good start. Thanks to all of our site staff for organizing those, and for good reports, so well done. Summer highlights. I want to recognize the 14 Atwater High School certified nurses assistants, CNAs, that took their boards on June 18th to become certified. They are the first certified class in the district. Extremely proud of them, and that is a great example of what the CTE programs are doing in this district. And we appreciate the board support of those programs. And, you know, these students are going to go right out into the world and have a full-time job. Let's see, CVOC summer school toured UC Merced today. Students gained knowledge about campus life, academics, and admissions. They could ask questions both in English and Spanish. That was a great opportunity. Leadership students, 275 of them, all schools in the district involved, gathered at Atwater High School on Monday for a 4-hour training session. Leadership students, for their collaboration and planning today with Evolve Schools as they prepare to lead their peers into through this year's school year. Band camp. Almost all of our bands have been involved in band camp over the course of the summer. Great way for them to get together and bond and practice. Good to see. We had 2 students and 2 staff members go to Washington, D.C. To represent us for the Green Ribbon Award and District Sustainability. Juan Martinez from Yosemite High School and Dulce Rodriguez from Atwater High School, who's involved in FFA, went with Mrs. Helton and, Mr. Rivera. Spoke with congressmen, senators, the deputy secretary of the Department of Education, and part of the vice president's team. So they had a great few days in Washington, D.C. MUHSD is now Instagram verified, which will, you want to explain what that means, Viviana?
We got the blue check mark, so that means that there will be no confusion with Merced City School District, no other Merced, no fake accounts that people create. So, Instagram will keep an extra eye out for us, just to make sure that, everybody who engages with us on social media knows that we're the official account.
Met with our leadership team yesterday and basically had a long discussion about setting high expectations this year. And that's what we will expect. Looking forward to our kickoff event Monday, August 8th at 9 a.m. District office will be live in the theater, and it will be streamed to all sites, and Jonathan Sprinkles will entertain us with some a great presentation. So looking forward to it. Thank you, President Pickle.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. So we'll move on to board member communications. Mr. Geisinger, do you have any?
You sit in the middle. I had a couple of notes. First and foremost, congratulations, Christy, on your award. MUHSD is lucky to have you. So. Congratulations to all the new teachers and administrators. I especially enjoyed listening to the report today. I'm actually excited about the school year. Seems like a lot of work has gone into all the preparation. It seems like it's been happening over a couple of years. So looking forward to a really good school year. Went to El Capitan's roundup today with my freshmen. I now have 2 students at El Cap, and I have to say it went very well. Despite all the work that's being done on campus, I was pleasantly surprised. Everything was clearly marked, the walking paths, et cetera, doors marked off, limits that you couldn't go through. But mostly just how well organized everything was and how efficiently we were able to get through. So that was nice. And I'm not sure who was more excited to be back on a school campus, my daughter or myself. I hope everyone has a really good school year. I wish everyone the very best.
Yes, once again, B, congratulations on your award. So thank you for everything you do for our school and our kids. Did we ever get an update on Mr. Hoff on the WASP review? I'm not sure if we did or not. I know it's been several months.
If you didn't, we can sure get one.
Sounds good, if we can get that, please. Let's see, classified staff, I think I brought it up before, that I know that once we hire classified staff, for the most part, they stay with us. But it would be nice to see our new staff also get presented to us, our new classified staff, because, you know, what's that?
In the work.
Oh, thank you very much. Because I know that that's probably a larger group, you know, but nonetheless, they are part of MUHSD family. So, and for the most part, once they become ours, they pretty much stay ours, you know. So it'd be nice to have them be acknowledged at a board meeting. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ballinger. Do we have any survey data on the impact of SROs on our campuses? And I only bring it up because it was a hot topic at the Merced City Council meeting last night, and then questioning the fact that we have SROs, because there's a group out there still questioning SROs being on campuses. As a parent of former MUHSD kids, it was a sense of security for me to know that there was a cop on campuses, SRO, whatever you want to call it. You know, just to know that I drove by and there was a police car there. And that added that extra measure for me, that, okay, good. I know that if something were to happen, my kids will be okay, you know, and I hope for the most part, 99% of our people probably feel that way. And I know it's a small contingency of the population that feels otherwise, but just to see if there's any data out there that kind of justifies, 95% of our students agree that there should be an SRO, or the LCAP data says that our parents say they want an SRO on campus. And I think that would, kind of quiet that down a bit for a while now, especially with everything that's happening across the nation. I think it's critical that we have them on campus, and I know that we've talked about contracts and we're securing it for the upcoming year, and I think that's great. So just if we have anything, if not, it's maybe something we can work on for the future. Other than that, I do want to wish everyone a great year. I know it all starts tomorrow. Is it tomorrow for teachers? New teachers tomorrow, and then everybody else Friday. So here's a great year, guys. Thank you very much, and good luck. So, thank you, Ms. Nicole.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez. Valdez?
Also want to congratulate Ms. B. Great job, and I think well deserved. I also want to agree with, I forgot who it was, but I was impressed with today's presentations, extra impressed with today's presentations, especially with the LCAP team and what they're doing, and Mr. Torrance' team and Mr. Jolly and part of that team. Although you guys didn't want to stand, but you did after all. But great, I was impressed, Mr. Torrance and your team, Mr. Jolly, and I think he left. But anyway, I was impressed. I wanted to just bring up a little bit of what I'm involved with, because it does benefit our kids, our students. So I'm involved with the Carlos Vieira Foundation, and I've always been involved in organizations like the Knights of Columbus, and even just in the city of Livingston with groups that help the youth. And I continue to be involved with this foundation because I think we do a lot of great things for the community. For example, we have our Autism Day picnic, which we do for families that have kids with autism. And what we do is we provide free carnival rides. There's a magic show. There's clowns. There's free food, and then there's also game stations for everyone, and for these game stations for kids to enjoy. Then we also have a quiet area where these families might need to decompress, where the kids might need that. So we usually reach out to our students, like FFA or like the Livingston Hispanic Leadership Council. They've always been volunteers for our event, and it's great for them. But so we have that, and I wanted to invite anyone who wants to come to the one that's coming up. This is the first one back from COVID. We had stopped them all, obviously, because of COVID, and it'll be on September 4th at Yamato Colony School in Livingston. I think it'd be awesome for you guys to come out if you have the time. It's on September 4th, which is a Sunday, and it's 12 to 4. It's not a very long period because these families can't, sometimes the kids can't stay for that long. So that's one of the programs that we have. We also have a direct help grant for families that have kids with autism. They're $500 grants that are given to these families for things like iPads or weighted blankets or anything that they may need to help them with their condition. We do about 100 to 150 per year, $500 grants. So that's the autism. Well, we have 3 programs. That's the Race for All. Everything's race related because it started with Carlos racing. So that's Race for Autism. Then we have Race to be Drug Free, and we have a Gloves Not Drugs program that's partnered with the Merced County Sheriff's Activities League. And we actually have a gym here at Castle, which really needs a lot of help. And because there's problems with that gym right now because they're tearing down the old barracks. So the homeless are now looking for somewhere else, and they're actually breaking into that gym, and it's not good. We need to move out and find somewhere else. But anyways, those programs are that we have. We had before COVID gyms in Delhi, Livingston, here at Castle, so in Atwater, and Planada, and then we were going to extend to Merced. And these are free boxing programs for kids 8 to 18 years old so they can stay off the streets and doing something positive that gives them structure. And so those are the we do boxing classes there in these gyms, and we plan to open them all back up as soon as we can. We're looking for new facilities and for the different areas and coaches and so on. And then the last program that we have is Race to End the Stigma about mental health. And this is one that I think is really necessary right now with, we got the report from the Uvalde school, and one of the things I really got from that is that this person, kid, whatever we want to call him, I think he had a lot of mental health issues that were not maybe addressed. And so anyways, so with our program, what we do is with that one, we have scholarships. And actually, we started here only at Merced Union High School District. We did not get a lot of response from this district. I don't know, maybe we didn't promote it enough, although we did do a video, you were in it, I think. And, but because we spread it to the 21 counties that we serve. So we serve people in 21 counties with the Race for Autism campaign and with the Race to End the Stigma. So we actually give $1,000 scholarships to students that will have had issues with mental health or are going into the mental health career path. So those are things that we do, and it involves our students because, some of our, the majority of these are from Merced County, the grants that we give out. So it's for families that have kids in our district or that come up from, the feeder schools in our district. So I just wanted to bring that up because we do, I would like to see, for you guys to see what this foundation does. And we've actually also paid for speakers to come out when we had the program at the Merced Theater. So that's all. I just wanted to tell you guys about what we do with this program and invite you guys to this autism picnic that we're going to do. We used to do these. We started in Livingston, and every year they grew. So we actually decided we'll do one in the Fresno area. So we did it in Visalia, and then the Sacramento people were like, "Hey, we want one over here." So we actually did 3. And these do cost a lot of money because everything's totally free for these kids. We don't charge them anything, and we don't even allow vendors to come in and try and sell people anything. So it's a really relaxed atmosphere for these families. But we're starting back in Livingston and hope to spread it again. We actually rented a bus to take our students to Visalia and to Sacramento as well, or Roseville, students that volunteer. So again, we do things for the people in our district and our community. So thanks again for everyone that always stays till the end, even though you don't have to. But I think you actually asked some of them to stay to the end, but
most of them, yeah.
So that's why they're here. But anyways, thanks for staying. So, and hopefully we have a great and better year this school year.
Julio, if you want to forward me that information, I will get it out to the appropriate staff.
Is there a website, Julio, for these events or the grants?
Carlos Vera Foundation.
Okay.
Org.
Thank you for passing it along. It's very worthwhile. I'm going to keep mine short. I'm just going to say welcome back, everyone. And it's going to be a great year. Looking forward to it. So with that, we will adjourn at 8:06, I think it says. Yep. Okay. All right. Have a great evening.
Slam the gavel.